And I was just, just tuning into myself and asking how I'd like to guide today's session. And what came up almost instantly is a form of meditation in which is for manifestation, particularly. Obviously, this is kind of a common, attractive topic in the field of personal development and all of this because at least the westernized version of it, it's very much about how can I create a better life? How can I manifest things in my experience? How can I realize that I do in some form create or co-create my reality? And, we've been exploring this topic um, quite a lot in the past little while. And we could say that the meditations that we've been doing have been very surrendered focused. We're surrendering into self, we're surrendering into our true nature, and we're dissolving into a place which I've often called the intentionless intention, which is very synonymous with the intention or the kind of filter of acceptance, right? Where I've used the reference of the 8 ball, right? So when you have an 8 ball, we have the outer ball, the outer shell, and then the inner ball has a bunch of different sides to it. And so those different sides could be like love and acceptance and patience and integrity and, respect and all these different principles. And at certain points in our life, these principles just kind of reveal themselves, but they are essentially all part of the same source. And so when we're surrendering into these forms of self-inquiry meditation that we've been doing, we're surrendering to that source, and we're not getting so caught up on the details of, okay, should I ignite this intention or that intention, or should I be this way or that way? Because oftentimes when we experience life in a natural way, we match what is being presented to us with what is necessary, right? So like, for instance, if I have to go to the bathroom, I match that with getting up and going to the bathroom. It's like, it's not like I have to try and figure out what should I match to this and how should I show up and this type of thing. It's really not complex, and we can relate that to many different aspects of our experience when we look at just our needs. We've kind of been confused in our path, at least in the Western society, which is pretty much the whole world now, that our desires are our needs, and we kind of mesh the two. So this is, in my view, one of the core elements and reasons why we suffer is because we believe our desires are needs. And so we chase the desires thinking they're needs, but they're really not. And we can actually feel much more fulfilled by just focusing on what is actually needed. And so in each moment, we have this opportunity to kind of match what is being presented to us with the intention, the action, the natural movement of what is necessary, right? What is necessary in each moment. I got to care for my crying child. I got to feed the dog. I got to go for a walk because I want to go outside. There's a naturalness to it. So I preface this meditation of manifestation with this because it can be very quick that we get into this kind of complex thing. Well, I want to manifest this and I'm going to focus on that and I got to create this in my life. And we get into this very kind of mind mapping of how we'd like to manifest and create our experience. But the reality is, just like we can't really control, like, how our hair is grown a certain way and what our face looks like, and like maybe our body figure in some respect, there's some level to that. You can see there is some flexibility to how we can shape things, but we also are very much unfolding in a natural direction. This is not to say everything is predestined, certainly not, but it's to say that we have to find the balance between how we navigate our conscious manifestation and a surrender to what is naturally already unfolding. So this is why I really like this form of the manifestation meditation, which we're going to go into in a moment. I do it often, and I've actually just recently really dove into it again because, I'm just in that flow. And it really is, I mean, the whole product of how we create things is through our vibration, through our energy. So as we consciously intend upon certain focuses in our experience with a certain energy, this just expedites the process of that process of creation. Right? And we can very easily forget this because we may reverse the idea that we are the product of what is external. So because something has happened to us, that is what creates our vibration. But that's actually the reversed way of manifestation, because that's how we get caught up in loops, where we look for the response of existence to determine our state. And if we are reactive to that, then we have no real conscious control or direction. versus the other way around, where we recognize that our feeling state is the determinant of what we see in our reflection, then this is the process of how we navigate our experience as a conscious, being, as a co-creator in our life experience. I hope this makes sense. So we're gonna just dive into that, and we'll see where it takes us. So, however you feel, called to, whether sit down or lie down, this is all welcome. And when you do feel ready, we will just simply close the eyes and bring the attention inwards. And we'll just take a few moments to rest in that initial message in a place of silence and just feeling into the body, just feeling how we feel in this moment, just coming to observe and recognize this. And so as we come into the simple observation of the sensations of the body, of the feeling state we're in, the thoughts that are arising, we can clearly see and observe simply what is present, what is here. And from this vantage point of silence, we aren't so concerned as to what is arising because we are void of expectation. We're not attached to any way that we should be experiencing life in this moment. We are simply accepting what is present exactly as it is, exactly as it's arising. And so as we continue to just simply observe what is present, we may feel called to naturally come into the breath. Sometimes that supports us in bringing a certain focus to this process, not getting lost in the movements of thought, feeling, and sensation. And with that, we can come into initially just observing the breath, just observing a natural inhale through the nose, a natural exhale through the nose. Don't need to control it too much, just observing and just seeing the natural rhythm. And then we may naturally feel called into controlling the breath, but very gently, very slowly, a natural slow inhale through the nose, maybe 5 to 8 seconds, filling up the entirety of the body. And then on the exhale, coming out through the nose as well, about 5 to 8 seconds. The exhale should be equal or longer than the inhale without strain. And we're just simply going in and out through the nose very slowly, very gently, to the point where if someone was watching you, they wouldn't be able to tell even that you're breathing. So it's very controlled, very slow, very gentle. And as you're breathing, we're not just necessarily breathing through the nose, we're breathing through every cell in the body. It's as if the entire body is breathing, and there's inlets of breath coming through every cell, every direction of the body, coming in, nourishing the body, and then exhaling and releasing. And you may feel a certain lightness begin to emerge as you do this for a few breaths here. And you can even visualize, if it supports you, almost like a pale silver or a gold pale silver energy as you breathe in through every cell in the body. And that's coming in through every direction, 360 degrees around the body. breathing that in right into the core. Sometimes the core is right at the solar plexus or even upwards near the heart. Breathing into that core and then breathing out and feeling that cleanse throughout the entirety of your anatomy. At a certain point of moving this breath, it may have taken on a certain life of its own, where this energy is just kind of pulsating, expanding, and contracting. And you may feel called to simply let go of the breath at this point and just observe the natural subtlety of the energy. You may feel into a certain lightness in the body that has emerged. Maybe any certain dense areas in the mind or in the emotions may have kind of dissolved a little bit or spread throughout the body. But you may also still feel called to continue. Maybe there's particular areas of the body or particular energies or emotions that are felt that you'd like to breathe into and just help them move and not be so concentrated potentially. And as we return back into this silence, into this space where there is a spaciousness, a lightness that expands in every direction. The spaciousness has no limit. It's eternal and infinite in every direction. And the more there's a surrender to this energy and this field, it may continue to expand. And in that expansion, there may also be a certain fullness that emerges in the body, maybe subtle sensations or direct experiences of acceptance, appreciation, love, a certain contentment that expands through every cell. And we could just tune to these energies, not necessarily something we need to intend. They may just naturally reveal themselves like the budding of a flower. And as we dissolve our interest in the movements of the mind and the emotions and maybe the topics of our day or our week or our life experience, we may continue to dissolve into this simultaneous emptiness, but also a fullness that emerges where this loving acceptance begins to come through the heart, almost like a sun-like radiance that's rising in the morning that continues to light up everything as it continues to rise and expand. And as we come into this direct experience of this loving acceptance, this appreciation, this peacefulness, we can recognize that all that we have desired or sought out in some external form, be it a relationship, a material object, status or something that resembles some power. All of this is actually felt. All of the results of that, how we would desire to feel, is already felt here in this moment, and we can continue to ignite that sense of fullness, that sense of fulfillment, peace, satisfaction, loving acceptance within ourselves and within every cell of the body. Where we can ignite these feelings and see them as already present here and now, that they are not determined or dependent on any particular external circumstance. And as we dissolve our attachment to any particular goals or outcomes or destinations, we may find that these sensations, this sense of fullness, begins to expand even more rapidly. It begins to continue to fill up the entirety of the body. And we see that there is really no limit to this expansiveness, this sun-like radiance that comes from the heart and expands in every direction of the body. And as we surrender into this, we may reveal within our anatomy where there are certain energetic blocks or seals or places where it feels that this energy is having potential difficulty of expanding into. And through a compassionate lens, an accepting lens of that, our attention can naturally move to these places, and you'll find that the energies that are there may begin to sometimes slowly and sometimes more rapidly dissolve or become open to the fullness of this loving acceptance to continue to expand, creating a field around you, like an egg-like shape around the body. And from this vibrational oscillation, this field of energy that we've sunken into here, there may be particular topics in the mind, particular reflections in your life that would most resemble this feeling of loving acceptance, abundance, peacefulness, a certain fullness. That may be a certain relationship or a certain way of interacting with life. That may be a certain avenue of creative endeavors and pursuits. That may be having a certain access to resources and money and various other forms of abundance. There may be many different images that come that also reflect this energy in which you already are and already have here now. And so we don't need to go looking for these. They may naturally arise. Certain topics in the mind, certain focuses that you may have, desired manifestations. These may naturally arise in the field of view, and you may continue to expand into this energy while simultaneously maybe holding the visual or holding the symbol in the mind of the particular topic that feels most aligned to this. Sometimes just a word, just the intention of the topic is enough to imprint this energy, this oscillation that you've come into, this vibration that can imprint itself upon these symbols, these images in our life, things that feel most aligned to be manifested in your experience. And as we do this in a balanced way where we're not reaching for anything in particular, we're not having to go and find it within the mind, it just naturally arises within the space. And oftentimes, maybe nothing arises. Maybe the contentment of this vibration is enough, and no image, no visual, no manifestation is even necessary to be focused upon. And as we cycle through this some numerous times, we naturally are continuously pulled back to the fullness of the vibrational energy and field that we've created within the body. And we'll see that the images and the particular topics in the mind are not so much of an importance, they're secondary to this vibrational field. Because as we have a certain surrendered trust to the natural unfoldment of our life experience, we'll find that as long as we continue to return back to this natural oscillation of this loving acceptance, then everything in our life will naturally align itself. We will take the naturally aligned actions that are necessary within our life experience, and we'll continue to return to a certain simplicity in how we navigate life as a whole. And the simplicity is simply a product of this one pointed concentration upon this eternal wellspring of loving acceptance that comes from within. Now, at certain points, there may feel a call to come back to that initial breathing pattern, to continue to expand this energy through every cell in the body. Very slow inhale through the nose and slow exhale through the nose. But sometimes this is not necessary at all, as we just simply continue to bask in this source of loving acceptance that we've uncovered and realized. And other topics within the mind may arise for this energy to kind of direct itself in that direction for healing, for transformation, for manifestation, co-creation. And sometimes none of that is even apparent. there's just a simple silent contentment where we can just come to rest in the silence as well. Of course, this energy can also be sent into the physical space in which you're in. This naturally is done when we're holding a certain vibration, a certain oscillation of energy. It will affect everything in your immediate environment. And this is often why we can feel the energies of others when we're in their vicinity, whether they're in a more positive state or a more negative state. Understanding that essentially everything is consciousness, everything is made of energy, and thus even the most inanimate of objects are affected by the vibration that you are oscillating at. Of course, living objects, crystals, plants, animals, and other beings, they will feel this more prominently and they will respond to that more prominently. But essentially, everything is a part of the same unified field of energy. And so we can remind ourselves that because of this one unified field of energy that we are naturally a part of, every moment that we are intending, acting, thinking, feeling, simply experiencing, this is rippling out upon the infinite spectrum of energy in all time spaces. And so whether we are doing this to interact with our physical experience with what is right directly in our immediate environment, or something that exists in a past or future tense, or something that exists in another geographical destination or coordinate, we can affect it all the same through this perception, through understanding the laws of energy, the physics of energy here. So some of us may feel complete here and may desire to just naturally open the eyes and bring our attention back to this physical space. Some of us may feel called to continue, which is always a recommendation if you have the time. And so we're welcome to do as we like. So feel free to share in the comments how that experience was for you. It's a little bit different than what we've done before, but not so much really. It's all the same. It's a very powerful meditation, and as I've recommended with all the forms of meditation that we've done, I mean, there's many different styles, is to be consistent with the practices that really resonate with you. And so if this one does in particular, and obviously we're all in a form of manifestation and co-creation in our life, so this can be very practically valuable. And I will say that the more kind of purified we become, which means the less we're holding energetic buildups, or what we call energetic miasms, which are buildups of energy blocks in the body, in the energetic anatomy. The less we're holding that, then the quicker the manifestation process, the quicker our influence will be, the more efficient we become. So this happens in a simultaneous respect of us gaining a certain clarity of our focus and the direction of our intent, the direction of our energy. And so you can play with this actually in many different ways. You can play with it in the way in which we've just done, where you're focusing on certain topics, certain things you'd like to bring more healing to or balance in your life, and or manifest certain things, so you can bring and intend that energy. For and really, there was a great quote. It's not really a quote, but it's a teaching in the Buddhist tradition, that the monks would say that if you can hold your attention on a single thought for even upwards of just 2 minutes, right? So holding a certain thought in your mind of something you're focused on for even just 2 minutes with a certain focus and clarity of intent, we increase the potential of that manifestation by 200 times. And so it's kind of just an exponential scale of understanding that the more we're able to focus on particular things with that concentration, then that concentration is naturally then going to feel the product of our energy. Whatever energy we're holding, it's like when we focus on something that's not so pleasant in our life and we keep focusing on it and it keeps happening, it keeps manifesting. Well, it's no different on the positive side. So it doesn't really matter. The universe doesn't differentiate. Whatever we're focusing on, the energy we're holding in the time frame of that focus is going to determine the outcome of whatever it is that we're looking at, focusing on, intending on. So it's a kind of be careful what you wish for type of thing. It's already happening in our life, with or without us, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. It's always the case. But with this type of uh, meditation, we're coming back to a place of deep acceptance within ourselves first and foremost. And from that, we may naturally have things that arise that we'd like to bring that energy to. And I find that's a very important distinction than just coming up with things in our mind we'd like to manifest and focusing on them. Because if we haven't come to a place of deep acceptance within ourselves first, then those desires may be misaligned. They may be diluted in some form. It may not necessarily be what we're looking for, but nonetheless, whether we go that way or outwards or inwards, we're going to find ourselves in the same lesson anyways. So that's for each of us to discover. Um, so it's just coming back to that element. The more clear we are in our energy field, the more resolved we are in our emotions. Resolving past circumstances and traumas and different energies we hold in our body, going through various levels of cleansing and detox, which is much of the work that I do, with people. This is really going to determine, the speed in which this can work in whatever form. I know in my life over the past decade, it's just continued to increase, and I know all of you are probably noticing it. The time that we're in, things are sped up in a very fast way, and that's because the energetic oscillation is much higher than it ever has been before. And so that means that, just like in our dreams, when we think of something and then it pops up, or in our mind we think of something and then a visual is there. Well, physical reality doesn't work any different than that. It's just working in a bit of a slower time frame. So understanding the laws of vibration and things like that, which is more like quantum physics, is a helpful tool, because we see the practicalities of how that can relate in our everyday life. Intention is acceptance. Beautiful. There you go. All right. Well, I hope that was good. That's all I have to share for now, unless there's any specific comments or questions to expand on that, which I'll leave it open. But yeah, if you want to learn more about this and all that, obviously every Wednesday I'm here, but Instagram, YouTube is where I'm sharing a lot of these things as well. And I'm going to post this meditation on YouTube because it's a nice and important one. So other than that, deep love to each of you. Enjoy your day. It's a beautiful one, at least up here in Ottawa. And see you soon.